Good morning, this is Grampa Garry back on the Jag Mark II. I wanted to show the progress made since the last video I put out. Here is the installed panhard mount, completely welded in now to the reconstructed back frame section. This thing is solidly mounted and plug welds throughout, reinforced extra metal put in, steel, plug welded and edge welded in there. Here are the components for the rear jacking point, the passenger side. This has to be fitted very carefully. This part here that you see is fitted inside the jacking point frame. It's kind of self-explanatory when you get the parts from the suppliers. I had to adjust the section that comes up against the inner fender well, wheel well I should say. The positioning of the jacking point was a little bit too far to the forward, so what I had to do to make up for the space that the jacking point was fitted in this direction, I had to put a section in here to back up the inner fender well when I bring it down. The positioning of the jacking point is determined by where it actually comes up against the inner fender well, and the way the replacement jacking point was made necessitated me just stopping where it is positioned, because I would have to make some major modifications to the way the flange was mounted to the frame. I'm not sure that's actually very clear what I'm saying, but anyway, the space was taken up by this 1/8" piece of steel that I formed to fit the profile. So this will support the inner fender wheel well when I bring it down and plug weld it to the jacking point. Now you can see I've been very liberal with the seam sealer and so on and so forth. It doesn't look that good, I guess, that pretty, but it is in there real solid. I welded the jacking point itself along this seam here, as well the bottom of the jacking point is welded to the bottom of this flange right here. This flange I've reinforced with extra metal, and the support structure for the jacking point is well welded in. There's a flange on the other side here that's been welded. It's welded all the way along here to the jacking point, and further it's welded on the other side too. So everything is very secure now, and it's positioned exactly where it needs to be, and it looks like it's going to be a good fit. But I had to reconstruct this section here, or I will have to reconstruct this section here. There's pinholes here. This metal is compromised, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this section out here, and fashion another piece to fit this against the sill that's temporarily installed. The sill is now in position, and I've decided to go with the textbook method for sill replacement. I had another scheme in place that I was not, wouldn't necessitate me drilling out all the spot welds and so on and so forth, but I decided to bite the bullet and go the proper way, because I know that the sill with the inner sill comprises a very critical part of the overall frame structure. I didn't want to compromise anything, and I didn't want to take any shortcut that would possibly lead to some sort of a situation that could be disastrous. So anyway, again, the panhard rod is completely installed now. All of the welding is complete. And despite the looks, it's well protected, and I'm going to be painting over top of this further, and hopefully be able to keep the rust at bay. Where I joined the panhard mount to the frame structure that I reconstructed, I used my Lincoln welder. I have a MIGPAC 180. My Lincoln welder is, generally I use the Lincoln 25.025 welding wire. I upgraded that to Lincoln 0.035, and I went to the hotter temperature setting, and I have to say that that was a good move. The plug welds and everything else that I did with the 0.035 wire was a good move. The welds came out very well, very strong. So I would suggest considering that if this is where you're at in your project. Now the sill, as you can see, is temporarily positioned here. I've used some screws to temporarily position everything. These spot welds here, the B and C pillar, are completely removed now. They're all the welds are broken, and that, so this can move this way, that way, as well as side to side. What I have to do now is install the front doors on the A-pillar. But before I do that, before I install the front door, I have to weld this piece here into the back onto the frame. This was designed to support the A-pillar, which was completely destroyed when I was disassembling this part. There wasn't much left here. So I had to reconstruct all of this section here, and that has been covered in the past with previous videos. I had fashioned this piece, this A-pillar support, as a replacement for the original one, of which there was not much left. And I had temporarily tacked it here. Now what I have to do, this sill replacement from Martin Roby isn't an exact fit. It requires some monkeying around with. You have to trim and change things around a little bit. And I have to trim this section off here that I'm pointing to. I have to bring this back this way so that my replacement support for the A-pillar will fit directly underneath. I had, as I said, I had this tacked in, and I had to break those tacks, but that's fine. I'm going to, after Christmas, I'm going to be trimming this off. I'm going to be replacing, reinstalling this piece here and edge welding it in. And you can see I've made provision for plug welds onto the new sill replacement. So that has to be done. And once I've fitted everything, and it looks like it's going to be exactly where it needs to be, then what I'm going to do is, before I do the final welding, is I'll install the passenger side door, front door, so I can ascertain my gaps, and on this section here. And once I get that done, then I can temporarily secure this section down here and here, and I'll have to reinstall the rear door as well. And this is going to require some adjustments, some fiddling around to make everything fit the way it should. The hinges, luckily, the hinges are in exceptionally good shape. There's nothing required really. I've tried to, I've checked the hinge points here for the doors, and everything is actually rock solid. There's no requirement for me to install new hinges or anything. I'm very happy with what I see here. So once I get all of the gaps adjusted and get everything into place, then and only then can I go ahead and final fit the sill itself, and then start to secure that. But I have another consideration. I'll have to, two things. I have to actually pull the sill off again after I've got the fitting down 100%, and the door locations and everything, the gaps are all done. I have to condition the metal. I have to rust-proof the interior of the new sill. And then once I get that part done, another consideration is I have to start thinking about how I'm going to work the wiring harness in to the sill. This provides a conduit for the interior of the wiring that goes back from the point where it comes into the cab through this hole here. The main harness comes in through here and then branches out, goes down along here into this hole here, and then all the way along the sill. And here, up here, there's a branch circuit that goes up to where the actual one interior light is here. And then after that branch circuit, the harness continues through here. The sill comes up through here, up along here, comes out here, and then it goes here, and then into the rear, into the boot. From here, where it goes, the harness will go this way, and also back, straight back through conduits and such to the rear tail light on the passenger side. So I have to consider that. I have to make sure that I have a way to actually get the branch circuit up from here all the way up to the interior lights on both sides when I do the other side. So that's something that suddenly dawned on me. I can't just go ahead and start welding this all in and finalizing it until I know I can actually run the wiring harness through here. And I have to make sure too during the welding process that the welding harness will have to be in here, but I have to take into consideration any damage that could happen through welding to the harness itself. So you can see that there's still a lot to do. There will be probably some time before I get my new harness in, although I am considering running the branch circuit that used to exist in here all the way down here to the main harness. I might utilize the old section of wiring harness for this to be able to at least get this part done and splice it into the new harness when I do get it. I have a brand new harness complete, spec'd out, and in the new year coming up here I will be ordering that, because that's a pretty big job. I can't just leave that to the last minute, get everything secured in place and welded in permanently only to have to undo everything just to get that harness in. So now that the jacking point is in, and that I can finish this section here, weld in a new section of inner fender well, inner wheel well. I keep calling it fender well, it's a wheel well I guess, and get this all finished up, get it welded, seam sealed, painted, everything. Now I had to open up the driver's side rear jacking point position so that I could actually double check to make sure that my idea of how this all went together was correct. And in that process I pretty much confirmed what I expected. The situation on the other side is exactly the same situation I was faced with originally on the passenger side. So here you can see what I'm up against here with the interior of the left rear jacking point. It's pretty much gone. The section of frame here is pretty much corroded away. So I'm going to have to take, I'm going to cut some more of this inner wheel well out here, and that to expose this. I need to know exactly how far up this frame section is welded, or excuse me, corroded. And I'm going to have to probably reconstruct this rear frame section here. Now, the person that owned the vehicle before I took this project over has all these parts. He had ordered them, and I have them to replace this left rear jacking point. And I actually had this section of the car jacked up on this jacking point, and it, I have to say, my hair kind of stood on end when I realized what I was actually relying on to keep this body up in the air on the jack stands. So that is going to be next order of business. But once I get the passenger side done, once the passenger side is complete, and by complete I mean the front wing is repaired, then I will begin on the driver's side. So once everything is fitted, I get my door gaps correct. The doors will be installed temporarily once I get this all correct. Once I get all the metal prepared, corrosion protected, get the A-pillar back where it needs to be reconstructed. This piece here is critical, obviously, because this supports the A-pillar and attaches the A-pillar to the frame rail, on the passenger side. Then I will continue with my completing the repairs with the outer wing repair panel that you can see I've cut here. It's ready to go on, but first things first, I need to work on this. I need to finish this, complete it. Then I'll do this, get this completed, and then I'll move over to the driver's side and basically repeat everything you see here. Although I know now pretty much what to expect when I start opening up the other sill and that. I have a different plan of attack on this when I get to the other side. So it might be less painful, I suppose, and time wasting will be less. I can simplify the operation. There's nothing like experience to protect or to help out with a plan of attack. Once I get the section here, the B and the C side finished up, I need to reinstall this section here. I had to cut this out to release it from the old section of sill in that. This actually is quite free to move, so I have some leeway within parameters, within reason here I can move. You can see my kind of bracing system I've used to support the roof and to kind of keep things more or less intact. It is actually quite solid. It's not probably the textbook way of doing things. I've seen people weld in frameworks and so on and so forth, but I didn't want, I'm trying to support the car the best way I can in the cheapest way I can, but making compromises. It isn't picture perfect bracing, but it seems to be good, and I haven't noticed anything. I've done some measurements to find out whether or not the frame is moving around, the vehicle's body is moving around. So far so good. And I have seen the system used with the boards across the floor sections here in several other old repair books for these, where people have in magazines and that have used this system to brace the vehicle up during frame repairs and that. So far so good. You can see I have lots of seam sealing to do here. There's a whole bunch of effort that's gone into rebuilding this section. This area here is completely gone, and I needed to figure out how I was going to actually try and reconstruct the front footwell. I have a lot of new metal welded into some of the old sheet metal that was used, and that's very, very difficult with respect to welding, because well, first off, there's a whole lot of lead used in seam sealing from the original construction. That's problematic. The metal is very difficult to weld, the old metal, and so cosmetically this doesn't look that great. It's not seam sealed yet, but it is secure, and I've taken extra care to make sure that even though the welds may look a little on the dodgy side, that things are actually, there's a whole lot of other welding that you can't see in here that's I'm very confident in. That's one thing this project is teaching me. I got decades of mechanical experience, solid mechanical experience, but my work history didn't involve much in the way of any welding at all. Hard surfacing, mold boards and that on graders and bulldozers and so on and so forth. Pretty simple, straightforward stick welding. So I'm new to MIG welding. I'm new to all kinds of things here, the bodywork side. But even though at times it's really tough to figure out things, and that it's still, I enjoy the challenge. And that's why I wanted this project, was to keep this car on the road the best way I can. Let's face it, this isn't going to be a conqueror's project when it's done. I want to be able to drive this to the coffee shop and visit my buddies. And from here forward, this car is going to have a very gentle life. I can guarantee that. I need to be able to focus here on some rust repair down in here. This section here, it was completely rusted away. You can't tell by looking at it the way I'm showing it to you now, but I need to be able to reconstruct this intersection here. So this is going to be something that I have to do when I take the sill off to prep the metal for corrosion prevention and that. So this will be another project that part of the project that's going to have to be completed before the final fitting of everything. You can see there's more attention required here. It's one of those things, the more you dig, the more you find, and the more you find, the more you have to fix. So it goes on and on. When I get the other side done, the passenger side done, aside from working on the frame and the sill forward, I need to finish the inner wheel well in the back here. This whole area inside here is highly corroded. I need to replace this piece in here. It looks solid enough, but once you look inside and underneath from the bottom, there's not a lot left there. That needs to be attended to, and I guess I'll have to do that. Once this part is done though, I can actually go ahead and install the brand new fuel tank. So that'll be a big milestone when I can get to finally do that. But at least I've already completed 2 other jacking points on the passenger side now. So even though this isn't a fun job, it's nice to know what to expect. So I guess that's it for now. I can ramble on, but that's not very interesting. I've decided not to bother showing all the welding and grinding and all that stuff. You can find that on a multitude of other YouTube channels, and it's not really serving any real purpose to rehash all that stuff. But I would say one thing for sure, like, double check when you get your parts. Obviously you have to do a trial fit, and there is a sequence to installing the jacking points. You get the actual jacking point in position, and then you have your brace here that fits the contour of the inner, on this side here, it fits the contour of the inner sill. And you have to tip it. You have to kind of put it on top of the jacking point, push it into this position here, which is not easy. It kind of fights you all the way, and it's leaning this way, and then you have to kind of tip it back into position. So it requires quite a bit of force at times in that. You might have to use some sort of a drift of some sort, and maybe a hammer, a ball peen hammer, to kind of tap it in position in that. But as long as you have the patience and the perseverance to keep trying and keep fitting until you're satisfied with everything, it all goes together, and at the end of the day it feels pretty good to finish up, get something done at least. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm going to sign off. This is it for this year. Taking a break now. And the next time I make another video, it'll be 2025. Enjoy your Christmas.